Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're gonna take a look at some possible fixes for the Go Battle League meta right now. This is going to be a little bit of a difficult one, and I know that's going to give a lot of controversies as well. Please make sure this is just some ideas. It is not something that all of them have to be in there. I know that there's going to be some hate and whatever coming around me. That was already on Twitter the case, so this is just some general thoughts. This took a lot of time, so feel free to leave a like if you will enjoy this video. We're going to talk mainly about the meta itself and how to try to fix it a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting. And I have to say, they're going to be mainly nerfs here, so if you want to see another video, for example, with just buffs or whatever, like just trying to buff Pokemon that are currently not really that nice, or like moves that are currently not really that used, for example, Astonish or something, then please leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already as well, but let's try to hit 777 likes for that one, because like those videos take a ton of time, more than any top team video or whatever. This took so long. But yeah, today we're going to take a look mainly on the core meta here, and honestly right now it's currently one of the worst Great League metas in my opinion. I see a lot of comments towards it as well. It's honestly, we have now the Worlds basically going to be over after the season, so we're going to have a little bit more of a time to actually nerf and like fix stuff or like even buff stuff. So I hope that Niantic actually going to try to do something with it and try to really, I mean, they make bigger changes than what we had like in the recent seasons, of course, because the meta is basically the same since the beginning. So yeah, what our goal is right now here is to try to nerf Pokemon, but or like nerf the Pokemon that are currently super common, give some other Pokemon a little bit more love as well, but not make the Pokemon that are currently extremely overpowered, like the ones that you see right now, useless or whatever. Still let them be meta, but like basically close the gap between the top Pokemon that you're going to encounter the entire time, which you see on the screen here mainly, and close the gap to the rest of the Pokemon with some changes. So we're going to start immediately here with the Reginerf. This is going to be something that, in my opinion, is not really anything that's too crazy, and it should actually, in my opinion, happen like this. We're going to have here both Zapkin and Focus Blast going to get at -10 damage. This was basically for Focus Blast before. Focus Blast got first nerfed from 150 to 140 damage, then got buffed again, and I feel like now it could get nerfed again. Like honestly, I feel like that wouldn't really be too bad for this Pokemon, but honestly also Zapkin has to get nerfed, because with Registeel there are so many matchups, especially in the Zero Shield scenario. This Pokemon, even like the World Champion said, it is currently the best Pokemon in the Great League. It is just too strong. If you use this Pokemon as a Taste-Up right now against Medicham, you still win the Zero Shield scenario, which just doesn't make sense at all. Like if you have here -10 damage on Zapkin, that's most likely going to change here, and it doesn't really impact the others. For example, here also for Focus Blast for both Mewtwo as well as for the Yveltal, this is going to not impact the Dialga matchup. And if you're going to take a look here at Registeel real quick in the Great League, as always, by the way, you're going to see this quite often, like those screens here. One shield scenario in the Great League is the thing that we're going to take a look at. Also, the changes that I did here right now are going to be reverted then for any other stuff later on, so it's always for the actual current Great League meta. And you're going to see here, for example, that it's going to be a little bit worse. It's going to lose one matchup, and it's going to lose a little bit of the average rating there, which is still above 500, but it does not really lose too much. Like, it's definitely still super viable, one of the strongest Pokemon, still going to be top 10 Pokemon for sure, even top 5 most likely. It doesn't really make too much of a difference there. And honestly, it's still going to be super strong in Ultra League as well. So here, I actually would say maybe even buff Flash Cannon though, because Flash Cannon is something that you don't really see too often. I feel like this would be a cool option again, especially also for Pokemon that are liking Flash Cannon, but that is not a Registeel, for example, something like a Ferrothorn or something. I feel like this would be totally a legit change right now, so would love to see this, but this is going to be it for Registeel right now. Next one, going to be again something that's a little bit more controversial, but it's not really the biggest change either. It's going to be a Sky Attack nerf. Again, we had the Sky Attack nerf before already. I think it went from 80 to 75, and now I would like to see it from 75 to 70 damage. The thing is with this one, the biggest impact it will have on Noctowl. You're going to see like the main Pokemon that use Sky Attack. Both Lugia as well as the Altaria use mainly their Dragon type Fast move to do damage, and for Lugia as well, Aeroblast is what really does the damage for this Pokemon. And for the Scammer, we're going to take a look at this one a little bit later as well. It's going to be also a little bit interesting. But yeah, mainly it's targeted towards Noctowl, and you're going to see right now, this is only a 5 minus damage there, and you're going to see it has nearly no impact. Like, it has just small impact there in terms of how much damage it's going to make it, but it's basically what I tried to do with those changes. Just try to narrow the gap between the top tier Pokemon right now with the Pokemon below, while not making the top tier Pokemon useless or like way worse than before. This does not make Noctowl way worse. Sky Attack with 70 damage is the same as Foul Play for an Umbreon, but this Pokemon, for example, has with a Wing Attack a way better fast move compared to Snarl in my opinion. So also has better coverage with Shadow Ball compared to the last resort. So this Pokemon still would have this nearly the same amount of players before, a little bit worse there, a little bit closer to the rest of the meta, and I feel like this is something that really could go into the meta, and like honestly I think it's a really decent change to do. I wouldn't really mind it. I think that would help a lot, and it does not make anything super weak that like you cannot use it anymore. So I feel like this is very decent. Here, if you're a little bit worried about the Lugia, it literally loses 3 battle rating, has still the exact same matchups, it just does a little bit less damage, or like gives the opponent one more fast move to go through, and it does not change really anything for this Pokemon at all. So again, it is not really the craziest nerf, but I feel like it's going to just narrow the small gap there between like Noctowl and the rest of the meta. I feel like this kind of helps. Something that's going to be a little bit spicier. That's going to be a Spark nerf. Spark is not really that crazy common on any Pokemon. I thought of going for a Surf nerf because it's basically the main issue for this Pokemon. But Lantern right now is insanely strong. I actually didn't know how good Lantern is on calculations. It is insane. If you go for 0 shields on Lantern with the meta, it nearly wins against 70%. Of course, it gets completely hardwalled by any kind of grass types, but they are currently basically nowhere around, especially after the Trevenant nerf. And here we're going to have the nerf for Lantern. We're going to see that it's going to do 1 more damage but 1 less energy. So if you would go for 2 more damage, that would be, I think, also some other move has like kind of similar. I thought of doing this before, but this would actually be a buff for Lantern. Like this, you're going to have a small nerf for Lantern with 5 damage for 1 spark, as you're going to see here right now as well. It's still going to be very strong though. Like it loses quite a bit, to be fair. It definitely loses quite a bit, but it's still going to be an insanely strong Pokemon. This is definitely one of the stronger nerfs for sure though. You could also just argue to go for the same amount of energy for Spark, but just go for -1 damage. That also would work out well. But I feel like Lantern still kind of needs a nerf as well for Spark variant. You can still run the Water Gun variant though, which wouldn't be even bothered by this one. It might be even the better play. But Lantern itself, it's just everywhere. And honestly, just go ahead, go to PvPoke, go to the like duo mode there, whatever it's called there, for the Great League. This Pokemon wins in a 0 shield nearly against any Pokemon. I feel like this kind of should change with Spark nerf, but again, it's just like one thing that you can do, but you don't really have to do. It is insane though, like 0 shields this Pokemon is wild. Now we're gonna go for Thundershock Magdezone. This is for the Shadow variant in the current Great League meta. This Pokemon is a sim hero. Like the one here on the left is of course the non-nerfed Spark. On the right side, the Thundershock there. This thing, of course, will not win you 63% in the one-shot scenario. This is just because they bait with Mirror Shot, and that's going to increase it a little bit. But here, for example, Thundershock just gives it a 1 more matchup, does do a little bit less damage in general, so the average rating is by 3 lowered, but basically gives it the same play as before. It definitely learns Thundershock as the pre-evolution do as well. Going to make it a little bit more dynamic, and I feel like this is actually more of a small buff for Magdezone, which it really would like to have. I tried out Volt Switch before, by the way. Volt Switch makes this Pokemon completely overpowered, so I wouldn't really do that. Just the insane, the Volt Switch damage as a Shadow is just so insane that it can farm down most likely Noctowl and stuff like this. So I wouldn't do this, but Thundershock is definitely more balanced than this one, but it's also not as crazy. Now we're going to have a small buff here for the next one. We're going to have the Wing Attack buff, which is going to be very cool as well. We have 1 more energy. That's all that we really want here. 1 more energy for this. Already 7 damage is really decent. This is basically the same as Poison Jab. I thought of going for 2 more energy, but this would make the Pokemon too strong. This is like always a small thing about balancing. Only a few Pokemon learn really Steel Wing, but most of them have a Wing Attack already, where they don't want to have like a non-step variant of Steel Wing. The only step Pokemon is the Skarmory for it. The only Pokemon where I would see it otherwise might be the Dragonite as a trap Pokemon. So like, for example, trying to trap any Fairy-type Pokemon, trying to trap Carbink, but even then, they're most likely still going to lose against those Pokemon with your Dragonite. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit better. And as you're going to see right now, for the Skarmory with this kind of moveset here, you're going to see a small increase in the average rating, still below 500, so still, it wins a lot of matchups though. You're going to win 3 more matchups with this one, but you see already, it's very, very close to the center. So like, you're going to win quite a few matchups very, very close. You don't really dominate anything there with it, but it would give this Pokemon a little bit more love right now, which it doesn't have. Like, you really rarely see this Pokemon. I recently made a video about this Pokemon. It's still a very strong Pokemon, but it's just not really as decent. and you might get like something like a Carbink with this a little bit annoyed, which I like to see. And especially if you would even nerf the Sky Attack with this, which is not the case here on the right side, it would even impact this a little bit less. So like the average rating would even go a little bit lower up there. So you most likely even lose like 1 or 2 more of those matchups as well. So it's definitely something that you can do, and I feel like +1 energy for Steel Wing is something that really should happen as well. Does not make anything overpowered, just gives Skarmory a very unique way of playing. Next one, one of the buffs as well, I think the last buffs that I have on here right now. And then we're gonna go, by the way, to the all controversial stuff. We're going to have here Metal Claw. I'm gonna give it 1 more damage and 1 more energy. I thought of going for 2 more damage before, which basically doesn't impact really a lot of it. I went for 2 more damage and 1 more energy, which made Zacian completely overpowered. And this is the best thing that I could do in order to make this move kinda usable, but not at all overpowered. You still wouldn't use it on the Sandslash, you still wouldn't use it on the Berserker, you still wouldn't use it on the Registeel, you still wouldn't use it on the Galarian Stunfisk, and you still wouldn't use it on the Dialga. For Dialga, it really does not make sense to run this move Metal Claw with those stats, because Dragon Breath is just way better for this Pokemon. Going to generate a little bit less energy actually, but just going to have way better matchups against all the other dragons which are going to be around, which your Metal Claw doesn't really do, and Metal Claw is going to be really bad against something like a Kyogre, against something like a Ho-Oh, so it's not really the best move to go for. Unlike for Zacian it's going to be able to win you the Mirror matchup, for example, and some other matchups as well where it's going to be kind of nice for it. But this is not going to make anything overpowered. For Lairon, it's going to definitely increase, of course, how Lairon would be. Very strong Pokemon, by the way, stats-wise and the moveset-wise as well. But of course, horrible typing, and it still wouldn't be really that strong for the Great League either. And it just would be like some kind of spice pick either there as well. Again, here also something interesting to see as we're going to have here the next one, which I kind of want to spoil there already. We're going to talk about Body Slam Nerf, and here we're going to go kind of into the spicy region where, of course, not everybody has to agree with me, and also this is not something where I'm saying this has to happen. This does not have to happen, but in my opinion, it actually would be better. It was a little bit like, I don't know, thinking beforehand, I was like, nah, there's no way that we really should do this here, right? Especially with like something like Snorlax, I don't really want to get it nerfed. But then again, every single restricted meta recently was Vigoroth plus Double meta, like literally every single one, and I'm so sick of this. I'm honestly so sick of it, and yeah, you're going to see right now, it actually does less of an impact than I thought it would. I thought it would impact it way more, and this is like one of the ones that is the most impacted. The one-shield scenario for Lickitung is the most impacted. Zero Shield has basically no change, I feel like, and 2 Shields has like a little bit less than this as an impact. And I don't really think it's that bad. I actually don't think it's really that bad for Lickitung as well. You're still going to use it. It's still going to win the matchups that it really wanted to win before. It's just not as broken. And yeah, honestly, I don't think it's really a bad one, especially because this Pokemon is XL heavy. So you don't really want to have it for like the entire meta either, in my opinion. So I feel like getting Nerf on this Pokemon is not as bad. But especially if you're going to take a look at Double right now, the differences aren't there, but like, it's one matchup, it's like 12 points average rating. It's not crazy. Like, honestly, it's not crazy. And this is the same for like most of the others as well. Yes, it's going to impact it a little bit, but I feel like this is going to balance, especially restricted metas, way better than before. And so I'm actually a fan of Body Slam Nerf, which I didn't really expect before. And now we're gonna go to the spicy area. This is going to be the last one we're gonna talk about today. I saw a lot of hate about this on Twitter. And I do agree. Counter Nerf, it's not the right time, but I feel like it's still something we kind of want to talk about. Here we're going to take a look at 1 less damage. I was looking at 1 less energy before, so it's a little bit more of a gap between the counter as well as the Karate Chop, which is the only really half-decent, okay, other than Double Kick, I guess, the other half-decent fighting type fast move that's in the game, which nobody uses because counter is just way too overpowered. If you take a look at PvPoke, you're going to see as well for the counter that the top 100 Pokemon, 16 of them have counter, which is kind of wild. Yes, around 33 Pokemon, I think I counted, were also weak to counter from the top 100, so like they could get super effective damage from it, so it does make sense. But honestly, I feel like this is just not really the right thing. Like, yes, it is not time for this to get nerfed yet. We're going to take a look at this as well. It's going to be too much of an impact. There are some things that you could do to kind of help out with it, but it's going to be too much of an impact if you do it like this. We're going to take a look at this as well right now. For example, Medichim right now, you're going to lose around 27, which is actually not that bad. Honestly, it's not that bad. But you're going to lose now, for example, against Azumarill, Mandibuzz, and Watergun Lantern in the one-shield scenario, where you should always lose against Mandibuzz and Azumarill, in my opinion, because you're a fighting-type Pokemon against a flying-type and against a fairy-type Pokemon. That you actually win against Azumarill is kinda a crime, but it is a little bit different for other Pokemon. I looked at other Pokemon and the impact was way bigger than for Medicham. The main impact was like, honestly, for like all the squishy Pokemon, you just didn't do the damage anymore that you needed to do. So I don't really know how to nerf Medicham. You could nerf Psychic, you cannot nerf Ice Punch at all. You can nerf Psychic, but then they're gonna run either Dynamic Punch or they're gonna run Power Punch, which is also going to be very nice. Then you're going to try to counter Medicham by buffing other Pokemon, which you could take a look in another episode. But then you're going to have, what can counter this Pokemon? Flying type Pokemon, gonna get completely destroyed by Lantern if it doesn't get nerfed. Ghost type Pokemon, gonna get completely destroyed by Lickitung and the, the Noctowl if it doesn't get nerfed. Like, this is like the issue with it. Like, you don't really have any answer that doesn't get completely hardwalled by another pick. So that's why Medicham is that high up. And I don't really see that this is going to change anyway, any time soon, because yes, counter nerf is a little bit too early for this one. There has to be like some kind of, over several seasons, some kind of change towards, okay, we're going to add more different kind of fighting type fast moves that are from the type of Pokemon. For example, for Obstagoon, some kind of dark or normal type move that's going to be better. For Deoxys defense, some kind of psychic type fast move that would be better. Stuff like this has to happen before like nerf of this can happen. You can, of course, do something for it. For example, if you're going to nerf it, that you're going to buff Cross Chop, which is going to impact it. Here you're going to see it with the buff and the nerf, the Machamp with it. It's still going to be worse than it. It's going to help, of course, with Karate Chop because you now have more a charge move pressure with it. But honestly, the impact of it is just too much. The issue with the fighting type Pokemon, which is also the main reason why counter itself is kinda balanced, but Medicham just isn't balanced, is that most fighting type Pokemon just don't have bulk. And Medicham is the only one that has a lot of bulk as well as decent charge move coverage. And so that's why Medicham is currently the worst Pokemon on it. And yes, I do agree, counter should not get nerfed this season, but I feel like we should shift towards giving Pokemon more different options. So counter is not necessary for the meta as much as it is right now. But yeah, I do agree, counter shouldn't get nerfed, but I feel like we should try to shift the meta towards something where it can get nerfed in the future, where we have enough options, where steel types are not getting broken afterwards, where Pokemon that are currently having counter are not completely useless because they get other fast moves. That's kind of the stuff that I would say for it. And yes, I do agree, we shouldn't nerf counter. But yeah, this is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. And also let me know in the comment section what you want to see getting nerfed or buffed even. And if you want me to do a one for just buffed moves only, and like basically giving Pokemon some moves that are currently not really that decent, then leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.